The night my sister introduced me as the family disappointment, the ribs were burning and nobody noticed. The air in that backyard tasted like charcoal smoke and boxed Merlot. Gold streamers fluttered against a crooked wooden fence. My father stood by the grill in his world's best dad apron, laughing too loud at jokes that weren't funny. And there I was, leaning against the fence, hands tucked under my arms, already bracing for whatever was coming. My name is Mara Bennett, and humiliation in my family was often served before dessert. It was my father's 61st birthday. Neighbors filled the folding chairs. Plastic cups sweated in the July heat. My stepmother, Colleen, flitted from table to table like a hostess on a cooking show. Her daughter, Sienna, my stepsister, had brought her new supervisor from the local media station. Sienna loved an audience. She looped her arm through the man's elbow and steered him toward the center of the yard like she was unveiling a trophy. "Oh, before we cut the cake," she called out sweetly, "I want you to meet the family's cautionary tale." She pointed at me. "That's Mara," she said, "our built-in reminder of what not to become." Laughter crackled across the yard. Colleen's shrill giggle. My father's rumbling chuckle. Even a few cousins chimed in with awkward smiles. The sound settled heavy on my shoulders. I'd been called worse: underachiever, sensitive, dramatic. The leftover from my father's first marriage. But something about being reduced to a punchline in front of a stranger stung deeper. The stranger, Sienna's supervisor, didn't laugh. He watched her carefully. Then he looked at me. His expression shifted. Calm. Thoughtful. "Interesting introduction," he said quietly. Then he turned back to Sienna. "Let's talk about your conduct at work on Monday." Her smile twitched. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You're suspended pending review." The yard went silent. A breeze knocked a paper plate to the grass, and for the first time in my life, the spotlight moved off me. But that wasn't the real turning point. The real turning point was something my mother left behind. My mother, Evelyn, died when I was 17. Breast cancer. Swift. Merciless. 1 month she was teaching me how to knead dough without overworking it. The next month I was packing up her sweaters because my father said it was time to move forward. He remarried within the year. Colleen moved in with her daughter Sienna, curly-haired, charming, already fluent in manipulation. 2 years later, my half-brother Lucas was born. From that moment on, I existed in the margins. Sienna got dance lessons, orthodontics, summer camps, a used convertible at 16. I got a secondhand laptop and a reminder to be grateful. When I needed help paying for college housing, I was told the budget was stretched thin. When Sienna decided she wanted to study communications in a private program out of state, somehow the funds appeared. I worked nights at a diner and commuted 2 hours daily for classes. I built presentations in between shifts, slept in library corners, dropped out after a year because exhaustion doesn't negotiate. They called me unreliable. I called it survival. At 21, I moved into a one-room apartment above a hardware store. The pipes rattled in winter. The walls sweated in summer. But it was mine. I started freelancing, branding, digital marketing, campaign strategy for small industrial clients nobody else wanted. It wasn't glamorous. It was steady. And over time, steady becomes powerful. By 30, my agency, North River Creative, was managing accounts across 3 states. We didn't make headlines, we made results. Revenue grew quietly, I hired carefully, reinvested everything, and I never once told my family how well I was doing. They assumed I was scraping by. It was easier that way. A week after that birthday dinner, I drove back to my father's old house to collect a few remaining boxes of my mother's belongings. The porch light still flickered the way it had when I was little. The mailbox leaned left like it always had. In the guest room closet, tucked inside one of my mother's old cookbooks, I found a small velvet pouch. Inside was a flash drive. No label. Just silver and ordinary. Curiosity won. I plugged it into my laptop on the bedroom floor. Folders populated the screen, campaign briefs, concept decks, brand guides. My breath caught. They were mine. Work I had done 5 years earlier for regional clients. Except the author listed on the files wasn't me. It was Sienna. And the organization credited on distribution? Channel 8 Media, the very station where she worked. Every tagline, every slide deck, every script, copied, reformatted, broadcast under her name. My hands went cold. I sat there for an hour, scrolling through file metadata. The timestamps told a story, late-night downloads, edits, re-uploads. She hadn't just borrowed inspiration. She had systematically stolen my work. 5 years of it. The discovery didn't feel like anger at first. It felt like something heavier. Like grief. I called my former college roommate, Lila. She now worked in cybersecurity. "Bring it over," she said after I explained enough to make her curious. Her apartment overlooked a busy intersection downtown. The hum of traffic bled through the windows. We sat at her kitchen table while she traced file origins, login credentials, server paths. By midnight, she leaned back in her chair. "It's airtight," she said. The files had been accessed through shared credentials tied to Channel 8. Sienna's internal login ID appeared repeatedly. Uploads matched broadcast dates. She hadn't even changed the fonts in some cases. Lazy, arrogant, certain she'd never be caught. The deeper we dug, the clearer it became. Sienna's rapid rise at the station wasn't talent. It was theft. And here's the twist she never anticipated. 3 years earlier, my agency had quietly acquired a controlling stake in Channel 8 Media through a parent investment group. I hadn't publicized it. It was just another strategic expansion, which meant Sienna had been unknowingly stealing from the company I owned. She'd been siphoning my intellectual property from under my own roof. The irony was almost poetic. Colleen texted 2 days later. "Family cookout Sunday. Don't be dramatic. Bring something." I stared at the message. Sunday. Perfect. The second gathering felt eerily similar. Same backyard, same folding tables, same performative warmth. Sienna wore confidence like perfume. She laughed loudly, tossed her hair, mentioned big projects at work. Her supervisor wasn't there this time, just family. When she finished recounting a recent broadcast success, one built entirely on my campaign strategy, I set my laptop on the patio table. "I thought we could watch something," I said calmly. Curiosity drew them closer. I played a side-by-side comparison. Left screen, my original presentations, complete with dated signatures and client approvals. Right screen, Sienna's televised segments, identical structure, identical phrasing, even identical typos. My father's face drained of color. Colleen's hand trembled around her wine glass. Sienna lunged toward the laptop. "Turn that off." I closed it gently instead. 5 years, I said. 5 years of unauthorized use. Silence pressed in on us. "You're mistaken," she whispered. "I'm not." I explained the ownership structure of Channel 8, explained the acquisition, explained the metadata. Every word landed heavier than the last. "You work for a company I control," I said quietly, "and you've been stealing from it." The party dissolved in slow motion. No shouting, no theatrics, just truth. The fallout was ugly. My father showed up at my apartment the next night with an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check. "Let's keep this private," he said. "She's family." I looked at him and saw a man who had chosen comfort over fairness my entire life. "This isn't private," I told him. "It's professional misconduct." He argued about loyalty, about forgiveness, about reputation. But loyalty without accountability is just favoritism. I declined the money. Legal proceedings followed. Termination. Civil penalties. Public correction of authorship. Channel 8 issued a formal statement crediting my agency for original content. Sienna's career unraveled quickly, and that's when the messages began. Accusations, pleas, threats. "You're ruining everything. You've always been jealous. You could have handled this quietly." Maybe. But quiet is what allowed it to continue. I filed cease and desist notices, blocked numbers, strengthened contracts. North River Creative took a brief reputational hit, 5% revenue dip. Then we stabilized. Then we grew. Because integrity, when defended properly, becomes a foundation. Months later, I stood on the rooftop terrace of our new Denver office. Snow traced the mountain peaks in the distance. The city hummed below. No texts, no accusations, just air. Clean, quiet air. I thought about my mother, about the velvet pouch, about how she must have saved that drive for a reason. Maybe she knew one day I'd need proof, or maybe she just believed in me enough to keep evidence of what I was capable of. Either way, she gave me something priceless. Not revenge, clarity. I didn't cut ties to punish anyone. I cut them to protect what I built. And here's what I've learned listening to so many stories like mine. Sometimes the people who call you a failure are only comfortable as long as you stay small. The moment you outgrow the role they assigned you, they panic. But shrinking never saved anyone. So if you've ever been the quiet one at the table, if you've ever swallowed an insult just to keep the peace, if you've ever built something extraordinary in silence while others mocked you, remember this. You don't owe anyone access to your success. You don't owe anyone the erasure of your boundaries. And you certainly don't owe loyalty to those who weaponize family against you. Protect your work. Protect your name. Protect your peace. Because sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is close the laptop, stand up from the table, and walk away without apologizing.